I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Conan the Destroyer is over. I go where I feel myself led. All right, Andy. I know you're just watching this for a young Olivia d'Abo.
What's funny is I could not, I heard the name and I was like, oh, I think I know who that is. Started the movie, I'm like, oh, that is definitely not who I thought it was. It took me a while to figure it out, but I had Natasha Kinski pictured in my head the whole time.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, it's very different. And then I started this, and I'm like, Olivia d'Abo, or is it Dabo or Diabo?
I think it's Dabo.
Yeah, I was like, I have no idea who she is, and then I looked. I'm like, oh, the Wonder Years.
Uh-huh.
I was like, okay, so clearly I watched a lot of her when I was young, but this was just I mean, this is on my list. I picked this. I wanted to come back. We talked about Conan the Barbarian back in our Oliver Stone in the 80s series, but having never seen this film before, complete, I had seen a few little scenes here and there. I added this to the list. I thought it would be fun to kind of have a Conan series, and so I wanted to discuss this. So I didn't grow up with this film. I had no sense of Olivia d'Abo growing up, and I'm trying to look like now early on, what would I have seen of her? Growing Pains. She was in 2 episodes of Growing Pains. She was in 1 episode of Simon and Simon. Like, none of the films that she was in I had ever seen. Star Trek The Next Generation, 1 episode. And then it's The Wonder Years. So really, like, my introduction to her was largely TV. And then it was just like bit parts and things like Wayne's World 2. And so I missed a lot of her growing up. But I don't know. Was she a poster girl for you when you were growing up?
Poster girls were like Lamborghinis, man. My posters were cars. I was that guy. I did know her from, obviously, the Wonder Years is how I knew her for sure.
Yeah.
And I saw her in I recognized her in all of the movies that I then saw her in because I just knew her face very well. And so it was a fun treat to come back and see her, that she was actually in this movie. I did not have that connection. I didn't remember that. I thought she was, I guess, yes, I was a fan. I didn't have a poster. I never went to a con just to see her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and she's a part of this film.
She is a part of it.
But it's definitely a Conan film, and it definitely feels different from the first film. So I mean, where do you want to start? Did you grow up with this film? Is this a film you saw when you were young? Like, do you have an attachment to it?
No. And I think if we do a bit of a recap, I didn't have an attachment to Conan the Barbarian either, and I didn't care for it that much. It just was not my hero movie of the era. I saw it late. I saw it because my dad loved it. And so because I didn't have an attachment to it, I felt like I was just looking through it the whole time. And this movie, trying to level up what this movie was to Conan the Barbarian by making it, trying to make it have broader age appeal and being a PG movie and having more jokes. There are moments in this film that I like. Overall, I think it lands poorly to even my already kind of sublimated view of Conan the Barbarian, and almost lampoons the character that I thought I knew. And it at its peak, the wrestling match between the gorilla head guy with no actual mouth and Conan in the diamond room, I was laughing out loud that I was laughing out loud. Like, why was that supposed to be funny? It was funny. I found it funny. Did you find it? Am I supposed to find it funny? I thought I was supposed to find it threatening.
Threatening is an interesting word to try to use in this context, because I don't think the foundation of this story is so much more of a comic book nature than the first film, which felt, I've never read any of the Conan works by what's his name, Robert E. Howard. Like, I've never read any of the Conan stories that he wrote. I may have glanced through some of the Conan the Barbarian comics when Marvel started putting those out, but like, Conan was never my thing. But it definitely felt like, when you compare the two movies side by side, it definitely feels like the John Milius, Oliver Stone version of Conan wanted to be a little darker, a little more violent, a little more gritty, which I'm assuming lends more to the Robert E. Howard stories. Mm-hmm. Whereas this version started with, a story by Roy Thomas and Gerry Conway, who were huge parts of the Conan the Barbarian comic. And so this one feels very much more comic booky. It feels that in the relationships, in the humor, in the just kind of the way the story unfolds. And I don't like, I appreciate that they were trying to go for more of a PG rating, but it definitely felt like, in those instances where you're talking about, it's hard to say I was meant to feel like an actual threat from that fight, because it just felt kind of like a comic book fight.
Yes. That I think is exactly the point. And so I ask you, how do you conceive of these movies as a set? Like, it's like high jump, low ceiling. Like, they don't make sense together to me.
I don't think that's a problem. I mean, it's not so different. It's like, I mean, my thinking when I saw this was very much going to, like, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and we talked about this way back early in our very first series we did on this podcast in 2011. Raiders of the Lost Ark is one thing. The other 3, now 4 Indiana Jones films feel like another thing. If anything, the most recent film, not directed by Spielberg, actually feels the most Raiders of the Lost Ark of all of them. It's actually one that feels a little more serious in tone, a little less goofy, whereas Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull all feel like they have this level of goofiness. Even if Temple of Doom does go much, much darker, it also is so much goofier. But they all still feel like Indiana Jones films. And so I don't have an issue looking at them as a whole. It's just like different stories following the character, and sometimes they might be goofier, sometimes they might not. I didn't really have any issues with Conan the Destroyer because of that specific issue. Would I have liked it to hew a little closer to where Milius and Stone kind of took that first film? Sure. But I think it was fine the way that this one felt.
Yeah, I think that is a fair parallel, the Indiana Jones parallel. I totally get it. I think it's easy to be more critical because I didn't feel terribly engaged to the film. It felt like if I had seen it when I was 14, I probably would have loved it. I think I really would have loved it. Yeah. And so it's fair to say that this is not a movie for me, in spite of sort of itself and its goofiness. Things I love about it, like I love watching Arnold Schwarzenegger just move around. Like, he's such a specimen, and this movie and Conan before it were such celebrations of physicality and not like there's very little of the magical mayhem. Like we get some of the wizard, opening and closing doors. Like that's a big one. There's giant mouth door. And I think that set was the set that they used to build the Conan adventure at Universal Studios when I was a kid. Like that was one of the theatrical presentations you could go see after you went on the ride, the Jaws boat ride, and there was a Battlestar Galactica thing where everyone was shooting at you, and then you could end up going to the Conan Save the Princess event. And I think it was with the mouth that opened up. That suddenly was very familiar to me. And so I enjoy that stuff. I enjoy this, just sort of the universe, the parade of physicality. And it feels like, a heavy metal album cover, in a really satisfying way to me. So I get it. I get the look of it. I did think that the addition of the comic, the jibes, the jester character was, rough. This just felt like a level up of the shenaniganry in a way that didn't feel earned from the first movie.
Well, I mean, there are some definite elements there that I can agree with, and I will say it's fair that when we talked about Conan the Barbarian back in that previous series, it wasn't a film that I grew up with either. And when I watched it, I was also, all right, it's nothing great. I rewatched it to prepare for this, and I had so much fun with it. Like, I just loved it. It was a great film. It was great 80s fantasy. I've never really been a big fan of kind of that Boris Vallejo style of like next to naked. I mean, I don't have problems with people being next to naked, but the idea of warriors next to naked going into battle, like, has just never really made sense.
It seems so silly.
It's like, right. Why you're like you're going to get hurt. Like, it just seems so dumb, but it works for the look. So anyway, I had so much more fun with Conan the Barbarian when I revisited it. And so it's entirely possible I just walked into Conan the Destroyer with that in my head. And so I was just looking for more of a fun time, and I had a really fun time with it. Like you, though, I have always struggled with these films that feel like, well, let's throw in a goofy sidekick because that'll help for the kids. That'll give the kids someone to really latch onto and enjoy. And we definitely get that here. It wasn't so much the case in Conan the Barbarian. And so as we had Tracey Walter as Conan's thief buddy, I was just like, here it is. Like, my brain immediately went to, I just totally blanked on it. It's not, oh God, what is the brain fart? What is the movie with anyway, I'm not even going to bother with that point. I can't remember any of the elements that I'm trying to do. So yeah, that was a great side note there.
Sidebar. Keep all of that in for sure, but put some banjo underneath it. That'd be good. Just a lilting banjo tune.
No, I've remembered it now. It is okay. The first thing that I thought of with it was when we had Rob Schneider pop up as Judge Dredd's sidekick character in Stallone's Judge Dredd. That was like not what I was expecting in that particular film. And that's kind of where Tracey Walter was for me as Malak, as this kind of goofy character that just didn't really need to be there. Like, I really preferred the people that he was working with in Conan the Barbarian that were also thieves, but you could take them seriously. Tracey Walter, I mean, first of all, as an actor, he's somebody that I generally don't think of in this sort of film. Like, he doesn't strike me as somebody who's going to be in a sword and sorcerer type of movie, nor in an action film, right? And I think that, like, all of those elements, when I walked into that with Tracey Walter, like, I feel like he's the sort of person who is a hillbilly in the South sort of actor, right? And so seeing him here, I'm just like, Tracy Walter as Conan's sidekick. Huh. Okay. So yeah, right out of the gate, I struggled with that.
He's such a funny actor, right? Because as much as I totally understand what you're talking about, I look at his credits and, he was in Silence of the Lambs. He was Bob the Goon in Batman. He was in Star Trek, a bunch of Star Trek. He was in Designing Women, one episode. The guy, he was in Alf, an episode. Like, the guy has been, he's such a face at this point. I don't know how to really wrap my head around what he wouldn't be in anymore. So the fact that he's not that the character doesn't really hit home for me is less about, I think, Tracy Walter's surprise than the fact that they decided to put a character like Malak in here as the goofy sidekick in the first place. And this gets to one of the reviews that I stumbled on as I was kind of prepping for this movie was a guy that has the background in the Conan universe, Conaverse, and was very frustrated by the title Destroyer. I was frustrated by the title Destroyer because I'm not sure Conan actually destroyed anything. The castle at the end, the ice castle, maybe you could make the case that he was a part of that because he broke all the mirrors and they were structurally integral to the structure. I don't know. Yeah. That would be a stretch, but he wasn't really a destroyer like I wanted him to be. And here is what this particular reviewer had to say. As a side note, I found the adjective destroyer in the title quite misleading and unfortunate. For those of us that read the Conan novels, we see Conan driven by his own motivations and fighting his battles only if he had to and not for the sake of destroying. The film distributors could have picked something else to promote the movie. Well, it kind of gets to what we see all the time in adaptations where the act of adapting the character for film takes away some of the heart and soul of what the fans knew the character as in the first place. I've complained about the same thing regarding the Joker. We've all complained about this in some way or another. And I feel like I don't have the benefit of that background. So to me, it just looks goofy, but it sounds like there's some reason that this character doesn't play in this movie the way it does in the first.
It's funny. I hadn't really thought about the title, and I guess it's only because it seemed like they were trying to do a thing where the films would all be Conan the blank, Conan the this, Conan the that, because they had subsequently talked about doing another film eventually to the point where, and we'll talk about this later, but they're looking at Conan the King as a potential return to the franchise. And so that's interesting. And I was just glancing through the titles of the stories of Howard's actual Conan stories, and they're just literal things like The Frost Giant's Daughter, The God in the Bowl, The Hall of the Dead, The Hand of Nergal, The Hour of the Dragon. And it does make me wonder if the film, if there would have been more success for the film had they done Conan, the Horn of Argoth, as like the actual title, or if that would have pushed audiences away because it was a bunch of weird fantasy-looking words, or would that have drawn them in? I don't know. But Dino De Laurentiis, we just had a whole series talking about De Laurentiis. Here we are back talking about him. He seems the sort of producer who looks at what is going to be the best thing for the movie to actually make money. And if it means not giving it a goofy title, but just doing something like Conan the Destroyer, then that's what he's going to do, whether it's helpful or not.
Yeah, maybe it was helpful. We'll see. We'll see when we get to the numbers, but it's confusing. I guess I wanted him to destroy more stuff.
He destroys Bombaata.
He does. Can we talk about Bombaata? Bombaata.
Sure, we're going to jump into that. Yes, let's talk about good old Wilt Chamberlain.
What do you know?
Wilt Chamberlain.
Wilt Chamberlain.
Here he is working to protect the virginity
You can't even do it.
Protecting the virginity of our heroine here, of Olivia d'Abo's princess, Princess Jenna. That is funny.
Wilt Chamberlain, protecting virginity since 1984.
By destroying it.
What did you think of old Wilt? What do you know of Wilt Chamberlain?
Other than he's incredibly tall. I mean, he's 7'1". He is the sort of height where, they're having conversations with the stunt coordinator saying, just be aware, one of the people in this stunt is 7 feet tall. So be prepared for that. Like it's you have to take that into account when you're sorting, like, what kind of horse is he going to be riding? What is he going to be wearing? Like, there's a lot of work that goes into that. Wilt Chamberlain, I mean, we're joking a little bit about his history of his sexual exploits, which is quite a story. But, I know that this was the one movie that he ever did. And it was the only movie he ever did because he thought he was interested in movies and then started this one and realized how boring it was. He hated that he was sitting around all the time. He would go up to the director and say, look, can't you just make all of my scenes, just bunch them all together so I can just get this over with? And they're like, there's a lot of other pieces that we're coordinating, not just your role, but all these other roles, all the sets, locations. And so he really had a hard time with the idea of making a movie and kind of realized, I mean, he had fun. He did a good job. I mean, I thought he was fine as this soldier protecting this princess. But it's just funny that he hit this point where he's just like, no, I'm not going to go through that again.
I like this line in his bio. Wilt didn't come from a race of giants, as many thought. Both his parents were no bigger than 5'9".
That is a weird line, yeah.
I wonder, I don't know. Ken Severson is credited with that bio, and I wonder what Ken's connection is to Wilt Chamberlain. Arguably, as this bio says, one of the greatest basketball players ever.
That's what he does. Not
that's
acting.
it.
But he again.
No. Yeah, Big Dipper. One nickname. Wilt the Stilt. Oh,
yeah.
All right, Andy. We both need an Andy a Pete the nickname. We're gonna have to workshop that. I thought he was fine. I think the challenge of having a professional basketball player who is exceptional at the game of basketball, doing a thing that isn't basketball, is that it makes you, I think, a little bit more critical of how this person, is this one of the early Nepo babies, right? Like a career Nepo baby. Like the reason he's cast in this is because he's 7'1", and 2, because he's super famous. And like, if you aren't drawn to see this movie by Arnold, then maybe you'll be drawn to see this movie because you're a fan of Wilt Chamberlain. And I think that's strategic casting, stunt casting. And I did not find his range terribly compelling, right? The whole idea behind the character of Bombaata is that he's charged with protecting the virginity of this girl and getting her to do the diamond thing. And as such, he's kind of a double agent. He's on the team. They don't get along very well, Conan and Bombaata, but he's on the team. He's on team rescue the princess. And then he turns. And I never really tracked his motivation from scene to scene. Like, I know that's what he was doing because other characters told me that's what he was doing. He was not able to convince me of that on his own.
No, well,
and he wasn't very scary.
No, and it is. I mean, great points, because I mean, the Queen does tell him, use Conan to get this horn, and so that we can wake this Dagoth, and then kill him. Like, we don't want him around for whatever reason. It doesn't make sense, other than she just doesn't want to fulfill her promise. But there's really there's no reason at all why they need to kill Conan. Like, I couldn't figure out, like, why does that even matter, other than the queen just doesn't want, she's going to, commit to doing something that she just can't do for Conan, which is bring Valeria back, which was who he was in love with from the first film. And I really enjoyed that relationship, so I could buy Conan seeing that her promise was something that was, being blinded enough that she could actually bring Valeria back from the dead. Sure. Okay.
Yes, I agree with that.
But again, it's like, why does the queen have to use this as a way to kind of get Conan out of the way? That really didn't make any sense to me. And then to your point, and this is a problem with, I suppose, the script as it was put together, but also Wilt Chamberlain playing Bombaata, is it's like, yeah, you're having a hard time understanding his logic and reasoning as far as like when he is going after Conan to actually kill him. Like the first time he comes after Conan, and the princess is like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And his response was like, oh, I thought you were going to hurt the princess, and that was kind of it, and everyone's okay with it, and you're like, really? It's like, okay, I had a hard time with that. And then later, it's like he causes this rock slide, which doesn't kill them. It just kind of keeps them stuck in this tunnel long enough so that they can get out. So he doesn't actually ever really follow through. So to your point, he's not much of a threat. Like, he's just somebody who's there for plot. He does what the plot and as the script dictates that he does, but he isn't much of a threat, and he's just doing the things that he's being told to do.
And this is a challenge with a lot of action movie villains, right? That they only exist to be bounced off of by our other principal characters. And that's very much what Chamberlain's role is here. And he just happens to be tall enough to pull it off. So, I mean, it's fine. It's just empty calories.
Well, and it does make me wonder, like, if they had cast somebody else, like, looking at the people that James Earl Jones had as his kind of assistants. Like, one of them was, Thorgrim, Sven Ole Thorsen, who was, Arnold Schwarzenegger's bodybuilding stunt buddy. He also ended up in this, but as he had to be masked because obviously we had seen him get killed in the first one, he couldn't come back. But like, that was this person that I felt he carried more weight in Conan the Barbarian. Like, he's a more interesting character. There's more threat from him as a villain. Like, it just worked. And that is definitely something with Bombaata that we're just not getting much of. And it's really only when they actually have their final fight in the palace at the end of the film where he actually seems a little bit of a threat, and it just seems because of his height, like when he's able to grab Conan and just like start like biting his ear off. Like, there were moments that made him seem, I don't know. It was a strange moment, but hey, it incapacitated Conan briefly. So, but still, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. It incapacitated Conan. He bit his ear. Jesus. So there's absolutely that part. Now, I think Wilt Chamberlain, he's fine. Bombaata's fine. We move on from Wilt Chamberlain. We got to turn our attention to our main wizardly antagonist, because that allows us to talk about the fight in the chamber and the gorilla mask, which is really all I want to talk about. So if there's anything you want to talk about before then, let's do it. Let's have an airing of grievances.
Well, you were talking about the gorilla mask. Which one are you talking about? Because there are two creatures that Conan fights that, I mean, neither of them are exactly gorilla masks, but yeah.
What would you call them if they're not? They're gorilla adjacent monsters.
Nothing seems gorilla-ish. It's a strange thing. Like, they're I mean, I don't know. Dagoth at the end is a god who is, I don't know what he is, but
that's not a gorilla.
He's a single-horned creature that is this, I don't know, webbed feet and hands. I don't know what Dagoth is, but he's like some sort of mutated, like, sea creature is basically what it looks like. He doesn't look anything like his god statue suggested he was going to.
No, not at all. God statue was handsome. I mean, that was a good-looking god. Like, people are seeing that. They're like, let's put the horn in because we need to get a piece of this god. And then the god turns into a horrible thing. Do you think if they had successfully sacrificed the princess when they were supposed to sacrifice the princess, that Dagoth would not have turned into the slimy mud monster?
That's a great question. Would he actually have just then gone back to hunky god look?
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
Get a piece of that. Let me just tell you, in terms of effects in this movie, when Conan jumps on the back of Dagoth and starts ripping the horn off, that's one of the greatest, most disgusting effects ever, because it's like all the sinew and the like fibrous stuff that's pulling out is so gross. It turned my stomach.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was great.
Okay, so there's that creature, but I think what you're talking about is what the wizard in the ice palace becomes. That's Pat Roach,
the wizard's avatar,
who's most famous for me as the Nazi mechanic in Raiders of the Lost Ark, who is the one who fights with Indiana in front of the plane as the plane's spinning around, and then ends up getting his face sliced off by the propellers. That's Pat Roach, and he plays this wizard here, Thoth Amon, who is the one who's keeping this, the jewel that is the key to get the horn, blah, blah, blah. It's all like a fantasy, kind of just the rigmarole that they need to go through in order to get all the puzzle pieces. Anyway, he does go through this process of, and he's, got this ice palace, this mirror room. I really liked the sequence when Conan gets trapped in this mirror room, and this red cloaked figure appears in all of the mirrors around it, steps out, and you've got a room full of these red cloaked figures who then walk around, and almost like the figures collect each other until it's just one figure. I thought that was actually a really interesting setup. I enjoyed what they were doing with that. And then he takes his cloak off, and he looks like one of the stupidest things ever. And you're saying it's gorilla creature. Okay, sure. Maybe a shaved gorilla is what it ends up looking like. It's really dumb. The costume that he's in is really just terribly done. Like, for a decently budgeted film, I was surprised that something looked so stupid. Anyway, yes, he's the one who now has to fight Conan, and and that's the sequence. I like the way that Conan figures out how to actually destroy him, which is actually by breaking the mirrors. Like, that all played really well for me. It's just the creature itself is terrible.
It was bad news, man. It was bad news. It was like a $2 mask from, Party City or something. Spirit Halloween. Bad news. There was no. Do you see? There was no mouth. I mean, there was no mouth on the mouth. It was just a painted tongue. And they did way too many close-ups. Were they proud of it? Like, give us some more obscured shots. Don't just keep... What are you doing with the... I mean, come on, Jack Cardiff, man. Phoning it in. Filming this fight. It looked so bad. And the fact that it was... Like, I know. If I were a fan, the fact that Pat Roach is... As a wrestler with Arnold Schwarzenegger must have been incredible. Like, I can imagine if I had been a wrestling fan, seeing these guys do wrestling stuff might have been really amazing as a kid. But God, it's dumb right now. It's so dumb. I don't know how else to... Like, I don't have any real critical thoughts other than it was shot stupidly. It was leaned way too hard into the mask on too many medium shots and close-ups, and as if they were proud of it. The head felt like it was actually falling off at some points, and Arnold, it gave Arnold too many times where they do that move where he puts Arnold over his upside down on his back and starts spinning him around, and you get to see Arnold do his. It's actually the Total Recall scream. That where he's and his eyes, like in Total Recall, it's right before his eyes come out of their sockets. But that's what I got.
That's when he's spinning him by his feet. Yeah, he grabs him by his feet and is spinning him around the room to throw him. Yeah,
God, Andy's so dumb.
No, I don't like the creature. I don't mind the fight. I don't mind the fight. It's okay. I don't mind how it's shot. It's a mirrored room, and that is a more difficult thing to shoot in the mid-'80s. They don't have the ability to paint out camera like they do today, and the fantastic work that can be done to just make cameras completely non-existent when you actually see camera in shot in the way that they film projects today.
Crazy
Back then,
cool.
you had to like rework all the mirrors in the room, reposition the camera, the gear, the crew, everybody involved, and make sure that they never moved in a way where they would end up being seen in a mirror. So it is more complicated at the time. I give them that. I give them the benefit of knowing that they had to deal with those complexities when they were filming this. So I don't fault Jack Cardiff, and maybe it's because so much of the rest of the film I think looks really fantastic. I like the comic book look that they do, all the filters and everything that they're playing with. But yeah, it's just hard when the creature looks just so cheaply put together. I was kind of surprised. This is the one area of the film as a kid that I remember watching. And it's, I think even then I just always felt like it never looked that good. It's just a shoddy bit of costume work. And it's a shame because I think when it starts, you've got Thoth Amon appearing as like, I don't know, a hallucinatory smoke pterodactyl when he goes and actually steals Olivia Diabo. Like, I thought that was actually kind of cool. Like, he appears as this smoke creature and takes her away. Mm-hmm. That was neat. Then to become this thing, it just was a real disappointment. And also surprisingly fast. I was clocking it and I looked at this and I'm like, holy cow, they've already got this diamond and they've killed the wizard and destroyed his palace all within like the first half hour of the movie. Like this, as a, obviously not the big bad, but he's a sub-level boss that has to be destroyed before they can kind of continue on. He did end up being a bit of a letdown.
Well, they had to get us to, the mud evolution of Dagoth. Right. I mean, they had to get us all the way back there. And I want to say, to your point about Jack Cardiff, as much as I level blame at Jack Cardiff for the way the fight itself was shot, the rest of the movie actually looks really good. Right. Yeah. Like I love the way he shoots landscapes and their travel across, barren wasteland. And I just think he makes dirt look good. I thought it holds up. So, all due credit where credit is absolutely due.
Yeah. We haven't really talked about the rest of the cast. Olivia Dabo as our princess here, a little bit rough, and it's interesting. I can't speak much to Olivia Dabo as an actress because I've seen her in things, but she's not somebody I can picture much in her actual performances. So I'm really just kind of taking this for what she gives here, and it's like. I just don't think... I think one of my problems... I mean, I did have fun with this film, but it definitely feels very comic booky throughout, which is... I mean, we'll talk about the writers and kind of how this got put together. It is just so much more comic booky than the first film. And to the point where these characters, like their interactions, their dialogue, the way that they make decisions, it all feels so... just written just to get the plot moving. And that I think is the thing that makes Princess Jenna the strangest of the characters, like, and the hardest one to really connect with, because it's like, okay, she's supposedly falling in love with Conan throughout the film. And I'm just like, other than the fact that they write dialogue about her doing so, I never actually see it happening in the film.
Right.
And she just is like a little bossy, princess who's pushing Conan to do these things because she's the leader of the group and stuff. And it's just like, it all feels so written. I struggled with the way that she was written as a character. And I don't blame it on Olivia, but I feel the script for her was just not doing her any favors at all.
I think you are relitigating our exact same complaints with Wilt Chamberlain's character, right? Like that.
Sure, yeah.
I feel like that's a consistent thread because I totally agree with you. At no point do I ever feel like she's given an opportunity to demonstrate, to show us her relationship with Conan. And yet then we have the sequence where she asks Grace Jones, "How do you get a man? You grab him, you take him," right? Which we'll need to dig into Grace Jones briefly, but I think that's a funny moment that is supposed to illustrate their growing connection. She's trying to research and figure out how to get a man because she's naive, and yet as a performance, I don't think she's given an opportunity to actually show us how she feels. Only is it relegated to comedy.
Yeah, I think that's it. And I mean, that's really the problem with so many of the characters that we talked about. Tracy Walter too. It's like they're here to give us these comedy beats and just the story points that our writers have kind of crafted as part of this story. But it's just, I don't know. I also feel like there is an element of the way that people saw fantasy stories as needing to be crafted in the 80s, where I think they saw it, because I mean, you can even see this in maybe not so much, but you can see it for sure still in Ridley Scott's Legend. Like there are still elements, like all of his little dwarf characters and everything, like they're so goofy. Like they felt like you have to build a high level of goofiness into fantasy for audiences to buy into the stories. And I just don't feel like after Conan the Barbarian, like I feel like they had a hard time remembering that fantasy could be taken seriously until like Peter Jackson gave us the Lord of the Rings films. And I think that was a real struggle. And I mean, because you definitely see it with all of the characters here. I mean, I think that the Queen maybe isn't one who's relegated to as much goofiness, but still she is relegated to just moving the plot along and putting all these pieces in place to just make all of this stuff happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely right. The other thing that strikes me is that this movie, and I don't, you just watched Conan. How many at its peak
The
in
Barbarian.
Conan? Right, the Barbarian. Yeah, O'Brien. At its peak, how many people were traveling with Conan the Barbarian?
I believe it was 4. It was Conan and Valeria and Mako, who I don't believe had a name in the first film. I think he was just the Wizard of the Rocks or something like that. What was his? I'm looking now. What was his character's name? I don't remember what his character's name was, but and then there was Subotai was the 4th one who was traveling. Wizard of the Mounds was what Mako's wizard character's name. Okay. So I think at the peak, those 4 are traveling together. I mean, there is a point where, I don't know if it really counts, but they do rescue the king's another princess from Thulsa Doom and are bringing her back to her father. So technically 5, I guess, but yeah.
It's interesting because in my memory of the Barbarian was that the building of the party was much more natural. Like it didn't feel forced in as much of a way as it does here, right? Here it feels like, oh, people like parties. We're talking about D&D a lot. Like that's kind of big right now. Like this, we need to build a party and everybody has to have their own goofy personality and they all get to talk all the time. And I don't have as strong a memory of that in Conan the Barbarian. This feels so forced in that same regard.
I didn't feel that. Like I thought it was just building of a team like anything. Like, I mean, sure, Conan the Barbarian, there does feel like there's this natural bond of the 3 thieves, Conan, Subotai, and Valeria, when they kind of create their core team, and then they bring on the wizard and eventually the princess. Like that one felt really natural. But this one, I guess I didn't have any issue with the fact that it's also a team, Conan and Malak, who are the initial pair, essentially hired by the queen to go help the princess because she's the only person who can perform this mission.
Yeah.
So the princess and then her guardian Bombaata have to come along. He needs his wizard, and now his wizard has a name, Akiro. So he goes and gets his wizard because he knows he's going to be fighting magic, and then they end up bringing Zula along. I didn't have an issue with the team building throughout this. I actually liked it, and maybe it's because I like Conan seems to work best when there is a group of people that he's working with, and so it gives us a sense of different varieties of personalities for Conan to bounce off of.
Well, and it balances out the sort of assumptive case of Conan as kind of the lone warrior, right? Like the lone slave turned warrior, right?
Turned thief, really.
Yeah, right. And I think that I think that works. I just feel like they were working to build a team in a weird way, like just a sort of a comedic way. Like everybody joins a team on a joke, and that just
I don't understand
felt forced
that.
to me.
I don't. Nothing seems like it's a joke really in this. Like, where are you saying it's built on a joke?
The script.
Well, but I mean, the princess and Bombaata, like that just seems like a mission.
Yes,
like it doesn't.
That's
like nothing
mission,
about that
sure.
seems like it's a problem.
No, that's not a problem. I think I don't have the script in front of me, Andy. I'm not going to be able to litigate this specifically. I just remember feeling like everyone joins the team for a reason that felt like there's a hole in the team and you have to fill it. And in Conan the Barbarian, it felt much more natural. Like everybody had a purpose. Even Malak was already on the team, but he was a jokester from the beginning. I will say there's something about Malak that I do like, which is Malak also killed people, right? Malak was of purpose. When they were in a fight, he wasn't useless. He had his little daggers and he jumped on bigger guys and he stabbed them a bunch of times in the neck. And I thought that was actually great because often the comic foil is totally useless in a fight and absolutely reliant on the big guy. And they did not do that in this one. So I thought that part was great. But it starts out with that kind of light banter that I didn't find to my taste. Like again, I said, this is not my movie. This is not a movie for me. And that's okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the team building in this. Like everybody ended up being a part of the team. They felt like they were there for a particular reason. If anyone mostly just seems kind of like added to the team arbitrarily, it's Zula, Grace Jones' character, because they rescue her and she needs a place to go. She just wants to join Conan because she knows of him. He's now saved her and she wants to fight with him. But again, even there, I didn't really have much of a problem with the way that was constructed. It all feels scripted, but for me, it was no more scripted than how the team was brought together in the first film.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Apparently, Grace Jones was problematic to the crew making this movie because she took the part so seriously. And that is about the most Grace Jones thing I can imagine hearing today.
I love that about her. I mean, I feel bad for the stunt people she was working against, but the stunt coordinator of the film said she could not figure out like pulling her punches. Like she just felt like she had to actually punch when she was doing it, and she broke the nose of like she's got her not a spear, it's like a cane that she's spinning around, and her pole fighting is really what she's doing, and she smacks a guy in the face in the scene where we first meet her, and like took the guy's nose out. And
I know, so good.
But she's tough. She's fun. She's a great addition to this. I always have enjoyed seeing Grace Jones, and I mean the few films I've seen her in, and I think I'm only counting two, this and View to a Kill. Yeah.
Yeah. I like watching Grace Jones on film because she is so severe. Like, talk about someone who understood the assignment. I think she was great. And I would watch her in other Conan movies. I think she actually pairs very well with Arnold Schwarzenegger in this era. And so, yeah, that part was solid.
I said, too, she's been in a lot of films from 73 in Gordon's War all the way up through 2016 in Götterdämmerung, so where she played Death and the Devil. All sorts of movies. The two that we're talking about are, the two like 84, 85, but then she was in Vamp, Straight to Hell, Siesta, Boomerang, Freddy as FRO 7, Cyber Bandits. She's been in a lot of things, so very busy. Yeah. Grace Jones.
I mean, you mentioned those two. I feel like I've seen her in more stuff. I just don't remember. Like, I have seen Vamp, and I'm sure there are others. I don't think I would have such a strong memory of Grace Jones if I hadn't seen other stuff.
But she's a presence. Like, that's the thing with Grace Jones.
Yeah.
Every time I see her, I just feel like she is such a great presence on screen. And I mean, she doesn't need to be acting. She is still singing and very, very busy at the age of 76. So she's, So kudos to her for keeping so busy all the time.
For sure.
We didn't mention that it was a fun little surprise, but Andre the Giant was actually the Dagoth monster. Uncredited in this, but Andrei Rusimov, in fact, was the man inside the mask. Did you read that?
I did. Mud Monster himself. That was great. I did not notice the body movement of that is familiar to me as Andre the Giant. He really buried himself in the part, you might say. Yes, you just might.
I want to talk a little bit. We talked a little bit about kind of the creation of this. We've kind of already done it, but I just want to mention, the script. The reason I think this feels so comic booky. I mean, Dino De Laurentiis, after Conan the Barbarian, he wanted to make another Conan film, but really wanted to kind of tone it down and make it something that could actually pass as PG. This came out at a very interesting time. This movie was released June 29th, 1984. The PG-13 rating went into effect July 1st, 1984. So this just missed it of being able to be PG-13 by 2 days, which I think is really interesting. But so they were trying to do something that could still get a PG rating. And so they really toned down the violence. And, he talked to Richard Fleischer, filmmaker who he had worked with a number of times. And Fleischer was like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. Let's make something that's a little more toned down. And so they went to the two men who were really kind of big parts of the Conan the Barbarian comics, Roy Thomas and what was the other writer's name? Gerry Conway. So these two, they had put this story together. Now, I say these names as people who are important in Conan the Barbarian, but when you say Roy Thomas, let me just read this list to you, Pete. Among the comic characters he co-created are Vision, Doc Samson, Carol Danvers, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Ultron, Yellow Jacket, Defenders, Man-Thing, Red Sonja, Morbius, Ghost Rider, Squadron Supreme, Invaders, Black Knight, Nighthawk, Havoc, Banshee, Sunfire, Thundra, Archon, Killraven, Wendell Vaughn, Red Wolf, Red Guardian, Damon Hellstrom, Valkyrie. So he is a big name in comics. He actually is the one who was Stan Lee's successor as editor-in-chief at Marvel and is the one who introduced Conan the Barbarian into Marvel Comics in 1970. Gerry Conway worked with him quite a bit on all of that. And also, I mean, I could go through his whole list of things too. Another name in comic lore that is just very, very big. My point is really just the fact that these two men knew Conan largely as the comic book figure that they very much had kind of developed and crafted based on Howard's character. And so I think it makes sense that, okay, yeah, you can see that this is the direction they were going to go with the story. They wanted it to feel more comic booky and everything. Stanley Mann ended up taking their story and being the person who wrote the script. It's interesting because he didn't have much of a comic book background, but was very much just a screenwriter. He had just done Firestarter. Before this, he had done things like Damien, Omen 2, and Meteor. And so it was kind of like, I don't know, he strikes me as somebody who may be more of a just kind of a hired hand screenwriter to kind of develop the story. But I think that he made changes to the story that neither Thomas nor Conway were very happy with. But, you know, De Laurentiis was happy with it, Fleischer was happy with it, and this is the film we got.
It's interesting. I think Roy Thomas also created Luke Cage, and I find the Luke Cage Netflix story interesting. The character is an interesting parallel to Conan, right? This character who is impossibly strong, and yet still it's a story that tracks his weaknesses in the spirit of building a team and solving a problem. Like, this is a story that's ages old, and it feels like Roy is exercising some demons through these characters in a really satisfying way. I think in hindsight, I prefer the Luke Cage character, tone, sentimentality. And I feel like it's a matured Conan. Isn't that a funny parallel that Roy Thomas was involved in both of these? I thought that was cool.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Well, I mean, it's a fun movie. I definitely have fun with it. Do I like it as much as Conan the Barbarian? Definitely not. But I didn't hate it. A lot of people seem to really look at this as just garbage. And again, going back to Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones, that's how a lot of people feel about Temple of Doom. You know, I don't know. I find them both to be fun films. Yes, it's a tonal shift. I don't like this one nearly as much, but I still enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, as kind of an 80s fantasy film. I think it was fine.
And I also thought it was fine, but I would have rather watched Crawl.
Yes, another interesting bit of 80s fantasy that would be fun to discuss for sure.
80s were big for this kind of fantasy, right? Like, there's a series in here.
There is. Oh.
Andy,
Next season, perhaps?
We're building our season.
All right. Well, we will be right back, but first, our credits.
The Next Reel is a production of True Story FM, engineering by Andy Nelson, music by Roy Spielger and Blackbard, Muvaka, Ian Post, Oriole Novella, and Eli Catlin. Andy usually finds all the stats for the awards and numbers at the-numbers.com, boxofficemojo.com, imdb.com, and wikipedia.org. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for our show.
All right. This is me, right?
I think so.
All right. Are you a fan of Conan the Destroyer, the epic sword and sorcery adventure starring Arnold Schwarzenegger? Do you love making lists of your favorite films? Then Letterboxd is the perfect platform for you. Letterboxd allows you to create and share lists of movies based on any theme or criteria you can imagine. Whether you're compiling a list of sword and sorcery epics featuring muscular Boris Vallejo-style heroes, or something more specific, such as movies where Arnold Schwarzenegger wears a loincloth, Letterboxd has got you covered. But why stop there? With Letterboxd, you can let your creativity run wild and create lists that are as hilarious as they are niche. How about films featuring wizards with questionable fashion sense? Or movies where the villain's lair is suspiciously well lit? The possibilities are endless. And if you're feeling particularly adventurous, you can create lists that are even more specific and obscure. Imagine a list called Films Featuring a Goofy Sidekick Clearly Included Just to Say One-Liners, or Movies Where a Character Betrays the Hero and Meets a Bloody Demise. Those are some deep cuts. But wait, there's more. How about movies where a queen attempts to resurrect an ancient evil using magical artifacts and unwitting pawns? Or films featuring a wise and powerful mentor with a penchant for cryptic advice? Now we're getting into some seriously obscure territory. Imagine a list called Movies Where Grace Jones Kills Someone in a Creatively Unconventional Way, or films where NBA Hall of Famer Wilt Chamberlain portrays a character named Bombaata who betrays the hero, attempts to bite his ear off, then is stabbed in the gut. The latter list might feature only one film, this film, but that's what makes it so delightfully specific. But the best part, listeners of the Next Reel Film podcast can get a 20% discount on their Letterboxd subscriptions, both new and renewals, by visiting thenextreel.com/letterboxd. With Letterboxd Pro, you'll have access to even more features, like personalized annual and all-time stats pages based on your diary entries and watched films, the ability to select and filter by your favorite streaming services, and get notified when films in your watch list arrive on those services. You can also see friends' average film ratings, track films you own, filter your own activity feed by type, pin content to your profile, duplicate lists, and manage tags. And if you upgrade to Letterboxd Patron, you'll join a community of passionate film lovers and gain access to exclusive perks, such as the ability to select your preferred poster and backdrop for any film, and for your own profile, reviews, and lists. You can also select your preferred image for any cast or crew member. Plus, you'll get your name featured on the Letterboxd Patrons page and early access to some beta features. So whether you're a fan of Conan the Destroyer or just love creating and sharing lists, whether serious or designed for a laugh, Letterboxd is the place for you. Sign up today at thenextreel.com/letterboxd and start your cinematic journey with Letterboxd, your life in film, one delightfully specific list at a time.
Those are some great lists. It might include only one film. This film. Okay. Sequels and remakes. Andy, they're still making Conan movies in some way, shape, or form. I think there's one coming out, right?
It's been in discussion, but who knows if it'll ever happen. There was a comic book adaptation of this film in Marvel's Super Special number 35, which came out December 84. Interestingly, Roy Thomas and Gerry Conway, who we were just talking about, they were dissatisfied with Stanley Mann's script and the finished film. They actually took that story and made a graphic novel called Conan the Barbarian, The Horn of Azoth, which was published in 1990. They did have to change a lot of the names, but they actually got their version of the story out there. So if you're interested in checking it out, you can still find copies of that. It's a little more on the rare side these days, but you can find copies of it on eBay. Robert Jordan wrote a novelization of this, and that now the sequel. There was a third film in this trilogy planned for 1987. It was going to be called Conan the Conqueror, going to your point about these names. Guy Hamilton or John Guillermin would have been directing this. Schwarzenegger, however, was committed to film Predator the same year, and his contract with De Laurentiis had actually run out because he did Red Sonja immediately after this one, and along with Raw Deal, and he didn't want to get back in and negotiate a new contract. So the movie fell into development hell, and that script ended up becoming Kull the Conqueror. Do you remember that one in 1997? No. With
in name only. I don't remember it.
It's with what's the actor's name? Kevin Sorbo, I believe, is the one.
The Beastmaster himself.
He ends up playing Kull in that particular film, and so it's an adaptation of the Conan novel, The Hour of the Dragon. I remember it coming out. I never saw it, but apparently, if you are curious to see where Conan the Conqueror would have gone, you can watch Kull the Conqueror to understand that one. Now, as far as perhaps a new one, we did have the Conan the Barbarian reboot, I guess, with Jason Momoa in 2011, which was not really very good. And then Schwarzenegger announced in 2012 that he was going to return to a film called Conan, or The Legend of Conan, which would have actually skipped, they love doing this now. It would be a direct sequel to the original Conan the Barbarian. Skipping Conan the Destroyer, skipping Jason Momoa's film, it would have just been a direct sequel to the original. Never got off the ground, even though Schwarzenegger was excited about it. And then it finally got dropped. Then, as of 2019, Schwarzenegger said it is still in active development, and that's when we got the word that it was now going to be Conan the King. Again, still never saw anything from that, so who knows if it'll ever come to pass. I think it would be interesting to see at this age Schwarzenegger taking on that role again. I
think so too. I would absolutely be down for that movie.
Yeah,
I think an older Conan, especially seeing, I'm a fan of some of what Schwarzenegger's been doing. I like Maggie a lot. Like his post-governor acting gigs have been interesting. I would love to see him get back into an action thing.
He's almost 80 years old, though.
I know.
That would be.
I mean, I'd like him to
interesting.
get back into an action thing. Like, I haven't seen, again, any of the Expendables, so I know he's still doing action stuff. But that's a really good point. And yet, like, look at the guy. Like, look at the guy. Like, he can't handle it.
You also have to look at what he's done in the recent Terminator films, and I feel like that he might be just at a point where they're needing to bring in stunt people more often to actually handle the real work, or
they should bring in Kevin Sorbo. That would be funny as his stunt person.
There you go. Oh my God.
Protect the face. Protect the face. Okay. How to do at award season? Is this a long and distinguished list?
It wasn't very popular in the award circles. It did have one win with 3 other nominations. At the Saturn Awards, Grace Jones was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, but lost to Polly Holliday in Gremlins. At the Razzies, Olivia Dabo was nominated for Worst Supporting Actress, but lost to Lynn Holly Johnson in Where the Boys Are. She also was nominated for Worst New Star, and she won, tying with Bo Derek in Bolero.
Oh, no.
I know. Last but not least, at the 2012 International Film Music Critics Awards, it was nominated for Best Archival Re-Recording of an Existing Score, but lost to The Battle of Neretva / The Naked and the Dead. And we didn't even talk about the fact that of the returning elements of the film, Basil Polidoris is back doing the score, and it's just fantastic. I love his music for this franchise.
Which do you like better?
They use elements like the themes across both, and so it's I don't know.
Hard to tell them apart.
Yeah.
All right. Well, how to do at the box office? Conan, big draw, 80s, high fantasy. It's got to have made some bucks.
Well, for Fleischer's turn at the Conan films, he had a budget of $18 million or $54.9 million in today's dollars. The movie opened June 29th, 1984, as I said earlier, opposite Cannonball Run 2 and Bachelor Party, landing in 4th place behind none of the new films, landing in 4th place because none of the new films could bump Ghostbusters or Gremlins out of the top 2 spots. The movie went on to earn $31 million or $94.7 million in today's dollars. That lands the film with an adjusted profit per finished minute of $386,000. A profit, but perhaps not enough to warrant continuing the franchise, as it was quite a drop from the profits of the previous film.
Wow.
Yeah.
But at least it's an apthum.
Hey, at least it made money back, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Well, this conversation has been good for me, Andy. I came in probably a bit too bearish on this movie. Again, it's not for me, and yet there is a lot to have fun with. I'll just forget about the Gorilla Man mask with no mouth fight. Like, that was a real low point, and everything else. It's a fun romp. I think and given how I felt about the first movie, it's fine. It's fine. We'll see.
It might be worth rewatching the first movie for you as well. Like, it really changed for me, and I had a great time with it. It feels different from this one, but I had a lot of fun with that first one. This film, I didn't like it as much as the first one, but I did have fun with it. I enjoyed it. It was an easy watch. I mean, that's the thing with these sorts of movies. It was just very easy to just kind of sit back, relax, and enjoy. I would watch it again. I'd probably still enjoy the first one more, but it's a fun enough sort of film.
Okay. Well, we're going to further litigate that in a minute when we get to, our ratings and reviews.
Yeah, yes. But first, we'll be right back for those ratings. Let's tune in for the trailer for next week's movie, returning to our Movies in the Remake series. It's Rowdy Harrigan's 1989 film, Roadhouse.
I'm so excited for this. So excited for Roadhouse.
I watched that again recently, and I had quite a bit of fun with it. And I still
haven't watched the new one yet.
I haven't seen the remake yet, so it'll be a fun pairing of films to discuss.
All right, here we go. Imagine dramatic fantasy music.
Okay.
In an age of chaos, when heroes were forged in the fires of forgotten realms, one force rose above the rest. 'Twas not a sword, 'twas not a spell. It was the Next Reel family of film podcasts membership. Join us, brave traveler, on a journey beyond the veil of ordinary podcasting, into a world where bonus episodes echo like war drums across the plains, where early access arrives swifter than a thief in the night, where in-episode bonus content reveals truths darker than any wizard's spell. You shall wield your own personal podcast feed, a totem of power known only to the chosen few. You will hear ad-free episodes unsullied by merchants or mid-episode proclamations. Gather round the sacred flame of live recording sessions, where the hosts conjure insights in real time, and enter the enchanted stronghold of our Discord, where members dwell in exclusive fellowship. All this for those bold enough to support the podcasts they love, to lift their voices, to join their ranks, to become a member. So heed the call, ride forth to truestory.fm/join, and remember, in a world of destroyers, you can become a creator.
In a world of destroyers. You're really going in. Oh, so funny. That's great. How's your voice holding up?
No, that was a mistake.
All right.
Letterboxd, Andrew. Letterboxd. This is where we assign our stars and our hearts and see where we rank this movie. Letterboxd.com/the next reel. That's where you can find our page, headquarters page, HQ page. Yeah, that's what it's called. What are you going to do? What'd you do? You came back to Conan on Revisit and rated that what?
I think I had started at 3 stars with that one, and then I ended up, after I revisited it, 4.5. Like, I freaking loved it. It was so much fun. I think I must have been on cold medicine or something when I watched it the first time. It was just like, it was a great film. And so this film, you know, I have fun with this one. It's an easy watch. I think that it's fair. I do have problems with it. But it's 3 stars and a heart. I think that's a fair spot for this one to sit for me.
Well, I'm in trouble because I rated the first Conan. I've not rewatched it. And I rated the first Conan 2 stars, no heart. Yeah, what is that?
Wow. After that's why you need to rewatch it.
I know. After this conversation, it makes me think I need to rewatch it because there's something wrong with me. And I'll own that. That's fine. I get it. Because I wanted to, my initial thought for this movie is, I don't know that I'm going to watch it again. It was fun and frivolous, and I've had enough. I would give it 3 stars, probably no heart. Kind of feels right down the middle. But now I've just rated this movie higher than Conan the Barbarian, which feels like a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions.
It does. It definitely does. You started this little thing that we had, like where we get to assign each other movies that you have to watch this next week. I'm going to tell you,
this
you need
is
to watch
one.
Conan the Barbarian this week. Yeah. Sorry.
You got it.
Have to revisit
I'll do it.
One. So, yeah.
Okay.
Good. All right. Well, that will average out to 3 stars and a heart over on our Letterboxd account, which you can find at The Next Reel. You can find me there at Soda Creek Film. You can find Pete there at Pete Wright. So what did you think about Conan the Destroyer? We would love to hear your thoughts. Hop into the Show Talk channel over in our Discord community, where we will be talking about the movie this week.
When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Letterboxd giveth, Andrew.
As Letterboxd always doeth.
Okay. What are you going to do?
I'm going with a 2.5 star by Ahab, who had this to say. There are 2 really great things about this movie. One is that it is called The Destroyer, which I just think is funny because of our whole conversation about that. The other is that Conan punches a horse in the face and has a Three Stooges moment with a camel in the same sequence. I like to call it the Conan takes no S from Animals sequence. Apart from those 2 diamonds in the rough, I mostly just regretted not watching Conan the Barbarian again.
Okay, we didn't say anything about Arnold Schwarzenegger punches animals, and we absolutely should have, because that's still here.
Such a strange, and it's like the same camel from the first film, and he's apologizing to it. What a weird moment. Yeah,
so weird. All right, I have this from Comrade Yui, Conan the Barbarian. Crom, I have never prayed to you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought or why we died. All that matters is that today two stood against many. That's what's important. Valor pleases you, Crom, so grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you. Conan the Destroyer. Roll 2d10 plus 5 for your greatsword's melee damage. Love a good D&D joke. Thanks, Letterboxd.